Steve here, coming today to you with a TV ad fan theory of mine. Today we're going to talk about Colonel Sanders. Now, I don't think I need to tell you who Colonel Sanders was. He was the founder and biggest spokesman for Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. Yes, he was, their mascot for that restaurant chain for the longest time. But then in 1980, he died. But that didn't stop KFC from using his image as their company logo. And 2 years ago, they decided they were going to bring back the Colonel. Now, I don't mean voodoo or any of that jazz. They simply had an actor portray the Colonel in some of their ads, namely Darrell Hammond of Saturday Night Live. Now, some people were disgusted by this. They thought they were disrespecting the Colonel, while others thought that Darrell Hammond did a very good job of imitating Colonel Sanders. Needless to say, it didn't matter because pretty soon, Darrell Hammond, for some reason, was replaced with Norm Macdonald, a fellow Saturday Night Live cast member. People wondered, well, what happened to Darrell Hammond? Did he get himself fired for some reason? And why, of all people, would you replace him with Norm Macdonald? But then Norm Macdonald himself was replaced by comedian Jim Gaffigan. And from there we began to see a pattern where one actor would come in and portray the Colonel, it's in the KFC ad, and then no sooner did you get used to that Colonel than the way would be replaced with another actor who would come in and do some ads. As we're making this video, we've had 9 different Colonels. Colonels. And some of them have had some very different personalities from the original Colonel. We've had an extra crispy Colonel played by suntanned actor George Hamilton. We've had a wrestling Colonel played by wrestler Dolph Ziggler. And we've had a solid gold Colonel played by Billy Zane. Haven't seen him do anything in a while. Anyway, people wonder, well, what's the deal? Is this all supposed to be the same Colonel, or is it different Colonels? What's going on? Well, I have a theory on that. See, all of this reminds me of the show Doctor Who. Now, for those of you who don't know, and I don't know who amongst you wouldn't know, Doctor Who is a British science fiction show about a time-traveling alien called the Doctor. Now, he travels through time and space in his little blue box called the TARDIS. And as an added bonus, he can regenerate. That is to say that when he dies, he can reincarnate into someone else. This is how the show stays fresh. One actor decides they don't want to play the Doctor anymore, so they kill off that character on the show and replace him with another Doctor, except it's all the same Doctor. Regeneration is what they call it. And I'm beginning to think that that's what's going on with Colonel Sanders here. He's regenerating. Basically, the Colonel is a Time Lord. Now, I'm not just saying that because the Colonel, we seem to see him playing by different actors. There's also a few other things, like he's called the Colonel in these ads. On Doctor Who, a lot of the Time Lords, the Gallifreyans, is the aliens I'm talking about, that Doctor Who is one of, they don't use proper names, they use titles, like the Doctor, the Master, the General, the War Chief, the Valyard. Well, why not the Colonel? Also, if you watch some of these ads, they seem to appear at different times, like the Rock and Roll Colonel. That's definitely set in the 1950s, and the Space Colonel, played by Rob Lowe, that seems to be set in the 1960s. So, Colonels bounce around the time space continuum right there. Plus, we've seen Colonels interact with one another, and that sometimes happens on Doctor Who. So there's my theory. The Colonel is a Time Lord.